And as you'll see, we have some high pressure systems coming in from the east, and they're going to raise temperatures on these two spotlights that we're doing for your redraft leagues. We're going to be talking about, oh, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. My name is Biggs. He is Grindberg. We are Biggs and Grindberg. This is the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. Biggs and Grindberg. Big things happening pre-draft 2024 fantasy season. Fantasy season never stops. I'm Biggs. I'm here with Grindberg. How you guys doing? We are here to go
I'm
over a
doing
couple
good,
of.
Biggs.
I didn't ask you. I was asking them, and I heard them answer me. Um, how are you doing, Mike?
Man, I'm doing great. There's a lot of happening in the NFL right now. We had a huge trade go down yesterday.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs getting shipped to the Houston Texans. A lot of fantasy impacts happening there. You know, life is good right now. We got the draft coming up, and we just did a rookie spotlight last show. And now we're going to talk a little bit about free agency. So, how can I not be any better than today?
You ever watch any late night talk shows like Jimmy Fallon or Seth Meyers,
Um,
David
you know
Letterman?
what? Yeah, back in the day for sure. I mean, they're on as I'm falling asleep, as I'm creating content and whatnot. But yeah, they're on
You
the
ever notice
background.
how
Why, what's up?
you ever notice how like you'll watch an episode of something and they're wearing a certain wardrobe and then it'll be like the next episode, so it's like the next week or like the next day or whatever, and they're wearing the same wardrobe. I think I figured out how that happens. It's because they record all the episodes in the same day. And did you ever think about it? Anyway, okay, we are here with some free agent spotlights. And when I say free agent spotlight, I'm not talking about guys that were free agents. I'm talking about guys who were affected by free agents. Am I eliminating free agents? I'm not eliminating free agents. We could be talking about somebody who was a free agent and signed with somebody new, like a Hollywood Brown kind of thing. However, my guy that I'm talking about, that I'm showcasing today, my spotlight in redraft leagues to help make you a champion in your ESPN league, in your Yahoo league, your NFL.com league, your family league, doing this with your kids. Show them how sharp you are just by watching our show, liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, commenting, asking questions, getting us over on FFAN, on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, in our chat, finding us on Twitter at BigBonedFFB or at FFConnect99. All of those ways that you can become a better fantasy football player, we're here to bring you. And the first guy I'm going to talk about in my spotlight is a wide receiver out of Pittsburgh named George Pickens. All right. I love George Pickens. I've loved me some George Pickens since he was coming into the rookie draft. I have the receipts to show it in my home league. I have 101 George Pickens in my rookie draft. I was trying to upset the sleeper app algorithm. Mike and I have talked ad nauseum, literally like so much it's made me vomit about how much I like George Pickens. Um, Almost as much as George Pickens, I like third year breakouts. What does that mean? That means that most of the time, well, not most of the time, a lot of the time, you'll get a wide receiver who has his best season in the third year. Comes out as a rookie, 600 yards, few touchdowns in the third to fourth tier of wide receivers, creates value at pick number 40 or pick number 30. Second year improves a little bit. That's what you want to see. You want to see some improvement. And then year three, bam! You ever hear of Nico Collins? That's what he did. He did that last year. I saw it coming because I am a follower of third year breakouts. George Pickens is entering his third season in the NFL. And there are a bunch of reasons why George Pickens should be steamed up. The first of which, George Pickens was not the target leader on the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. That was Deontay Johnson. Well, where is Deontay Johnson now? He's a Carolina Panther. That means that George Pickens moves up the depth chart. He is the wide receiver one in Pittsburgh. There's another reason. Russell Wilson. Last season, George Pickens was being thrown to by one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, a couple of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. I have presented a stat before that in fewer attempts, Russell Wilson threw more catchable balls. He had a higher catchable pass rate than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph combined, and they had 100 more attempts than he, or they had the same amount of balls, but he had 100 fewer attempts than they did. Okay. Now, last season, George Pickens had 106 total targets. We all know, don't we, that Deontay Johnson was considered a target monster previous to last season when he dealt with some injuries. He was in the 140 to 150 target range, which is incredible. Those targets are vacated. So even if the Steelers bring in somebody else, George Pickens is the guy, and he's looking at an increase in targets of 25, 30 maybe. Second year on only 106 targets as the number 2 option on the team, he finished with 1,140 yards, 1,140 yards. What do we look at when we're trying to find a good wide receiver? We look at their yards. 1,000 yards is a good benchmark for the quality of somebody's play. You don't get a lot of wide receivers hitting the 1,000-yard mark that aren't good. George Pickens did that in his second year. Wheels up on George Pickens, better depth chart position, target vacancy. There are some vacated targets with the absence of Deontay Johnson, and a better quarterback who is going to put the ball in his hands rather than lead the league in throws off target. So George Pickens is in for a huge year. He was drafted around the 39th, 40th, finished around wide receiver 39, 40 as a rookie, wide receiver 30 last year. He's in for a top 24 or higher season this year. Grab George Pickens in your redraft leagues as your wide receiver 2, your wide receiver 3. And we just got sniped in our mutual league that we're in and we're drafting right now. George Pickens was our target, and he just got taken a couple picks ahead of us. So we're sad, but ESPN redraft leagues, Yahoo redraft leagues, I'm taking George Pickens everywhere.
Yeah, you pick him as your wide receiver 2, and he's going to show out as wide receiver 1 numbers this year. You heard it here first from a person that was against George Pickens for a long time. I am now fully invested in George Pickens. I love where I see from him. I could see him getting 85 targets, 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdowns this year, which would put him easily in a wide receiver 1 range. And, wheels up for George Pickens. So I like that call, Biggs. And now,
I'm going to argue that you were never out on George Pickens. You were just out on George Pickens in his situation. And now he's in a better situation, yes, so you were in.
Way better.
But you've never doubted the talent of George Pickens.
No. I doubted how his separation abilities would translate, and he showed me last year how he can be a separator, and he doesn't need to be a separator. He doesn't need a great separator to be effective. And he needed Pickett out of there. He needed a new offensive coordinator, and he needed Deontay Johnson gone, and all those things happened. And Arthur Smith, as bad as he was in Atlanta, I think his offensive mind might be good in Pittsburgh. He's good. He was good in Tennessee, so we'll see what happens there. If anything, Pickens is a lateral move, and he still gets 1,200 yards receiving, and that's still a very good range for him to be in.
And so, any kind of positive touchdown regression, and when we say regression, we don't necessarily mean backwards, we just mean change. No. Any kind of positive touchdown regression from the 3 or 4 that he had into like the 8 to 10 range, and Pickens is a monster.
Huge. All right, folks, let's get into my free agency
yours?
Spotlight.
Kirk Cousins, I should have known.
Yeah, so when the Atlanta Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, it was like a pressure release valve went off, and everyone who had shares of Drake London or has or aspiring shares of Drake London, Kyle Pitts in the past took a deep breath. But can we really rely on these two guys moving forward after they scared us in the past? I'm here to tell you to go ahead and draft Drake London and Kyle Pitts with confidence. However, you must not reach for them. I would proceed with caution, but there's a lot of optimism from this Falcon team as a whole moving forward. I actually think they will be a very good team next year and make a strong push at that division, which means great things for Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson. This really doesn't move the needle too much for Kirk Cousins. You can expect the same old numbers from him. If healthy, you should play a full season. Look at, him throwing for 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, finish around the QB 12. But Cousins would fall into the perfect spot, and he will make everybody around him better. This is a big upgrade for what, last year the Falcons put up. This would increase their production by 700 passing yards, an additional 14 touchdowns up for grabs. So that would make a big impact on the following players: Drake London to the moon. London's usage, where, was strong in 2023. He commanded a 23% target share, 33% air yard share, over 1,200 yards of air yards, 69 catches, 905 yards, and just 2 touchdowns. The lack of touchdowns positions London as the wide receiver 39 overall, but, he is positioned to, improve that. The Falcons have a new head coach in Raheem Morris, a new offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson. Those individuals can't be any worse than what was going on in Atlanta before London. So with this new regime, the new quarterback, and the new young fresh offense, London is set to explode. I am pegging London as a wide receiver 1 next year. He should be good around the same range as what George Pickens is going to do, around the 85 receptions, 1,300 yards, and I'm hoping for around 8 to 10 touchdowns, wide receiver 12 range. This also elevates Kyle Pitts as well. Kyle Pitts was regarded as one of the best tight end prospects to enter the league in years when the Falcons drafted him at number 4 overall. But, he had a 68 catch, 1,000-yard rookie season. Pitts is considered a disappointment the last 2 years. Pitts played 10 games in 2022 before he tore his MCL, ending the season early. He ranked as the top tight end 18 in PPR scoring before he went down. Lackluster performance. Last season, no better. 58 catches, 667 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Finished as the tight end 13 in PPR scoring. There are reasons for optimism, though. Pitts will rebound in 2024. I'm looking at Pitts to have similar numbers to what he did in his rookie season, going over 1,000 yards. But I do think he will score more touchdowns. He will be a red zone threat. His wingspan is large. I think he's going to be able to catch some balls, and they're going to be in a lot better scoring positions. I can see Pitts emerging as, 1,000 yards, perhaps 5 touchdowns, and that would put him in the top 5 range at the position at tight end. So go ahead and grab Kyle Pitts with confidence. And the last person that Cousins will impact is Bijan Robinson. And, that is a huge thing for him. He will get all those red zone looks. With this new regime, I think it will lead to more touches for him. They're not going to rely on, Algier as much. He was ranked 9th in snap share, 3rd in targets, 6th in receptions, and he wasn't even on the field as much as he should have been. So think that moving forward, I am super high on Bijan this year. He should look to get to maybe, those Christian McCaffrey numbers, close to it. Look for Bijan to rush for close to 1,300 yards, rush for maybe 12 touchdowns on the ground, and adding another 50 receptions and 400 yards through the air. he could be, the RB1 overall this year, but right now he is my RB3 headed into 2024 with the Kirk Cousins moves. These Falcons should be a team on the up and up, and I'm excited to see what happens in Atlanta in 2024. So to remember, draft London, draft Pitts, and draft Bijan with confidence. And that's my take on that.
Yeah, and I love Bijan Robinson too. He is my running back one, A or B, with Brees Hall. I think those two guys, you can't go wrong with either of them. And when you talk about the Falcons' offense and Drake London and Kyle Pitts as pass catchers, there's one thing that comes to mind, and that's what are we looking for in the offseason for certain players? We're looking for upgrades, and there's not much of a better upgrade at the pass catching positions this season than going from a combination of Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke all the way up to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has shown himself to be a guy who can sling the ball 600 times in a season, throw for 4,500 yards, and get the ball into the hands of his pass catchers like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, guys that he absolutely fed when he was in Minnesota. And he's got those guys, but a little bit younger. And he's got a running back that he never had he hadn't had since Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. So if you want to transfer, plus Zach Robinson's offense is going to be different than the one that they had in Atlanta last year, where their offensive coordinator was trying to be the most clever guy in the room and zig when people zagged. And what is the defense expecting? Well, let's not do that. Well, what was the defense expecting? The defense was expecting Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts to handle the ball. And what did he do? He handed the ball off to Tyler Algier and threw the ball to Cordarrelle Patterson and Jonnu Smith. So he was trying to spread the ball around when you need to get the ball in the hands of your talent. And Kirk Cousins is going to do that, especially in Zach Robinson's offense. I love me some Falcons this season.
Awesome. Thanks, Biggs, for that, reiteration of my thoughts. And, that's why we're such a good team.
Steamed up!
Steamed up! All right, folks. That is it for, episode 4 of the Fantasy Forecast on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Be sure to like and subscribe to these videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And be sure to follow us on X or Twitter at FFCanuck99. Or, Biggs, where do we find you, bro?
At Big Boned at FFB. Also, go subscribe to the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Tell them Bigz or Grindberg sent you. And there's so much good content in there. There's player rankings. We're hooked up with Fantasy Pros if you want to find out your rankings. There's a great chat element, kind of like our own little Discord, Twitter deck. It's phenomenal. There's a whole bunch of people who know what they're talking about in there, including guys like myself and Grindberg. So we'd love to interact with you. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, share, interact with us, argue with us, yell at us. All caps in the comment section. Ask us questions. We'll answer them. Thank you guys for watching, and we hope you win.
Yeah, buddy. Peace out.